So my wife and I are we're reevaluating our trip and rebooking all of our. We're trying to change all of our plans because we just got breaking news that the inauguration has been moved indoors due to the extreme cold temperatures. This is this is why I got the hat. This is why I got my puffy, fluffy, very warm Donald Trump hat. This is why we got all sorts of. We knew it was going to be cold. We knew that it was going to be the coldest inauguration on record since Ronald Reagan was inaugurated. We knew that there was a potential for frostbite and all kinds. Look, in fact, we were prepared. Look, we got a big. These are those hot hand warmers. We got the value pack, and by we I mean, look, when I say we, I mean my wife, but when you get married you become one person, so I say we. It's a hand warmer value pack. It's the the hot hands that you use. You crack it open and then you put it in. Also, look what else we got. This is like a hot hands vest. It's an under warmer. It's like a heat warming vest. Imagine you take a bunch of hot hands and you turn them into a vest. That's exactly what it is, to keep your core, because you got to keep your core body temperature warm, especially in these dangerous conditions. And then I got this really fantastic Trump hat that I've been wearing on and off for a while because we knew it was going to be cold outside. Well, now apparently we don't have to worry about it being cold outside anymore because they've moved the gosh darn thing inside. And President Donald Trump has he's just posted on Truth Social confirming that it has been moved inside, and also talking about exactly what's going to happen. And I'll just say this. It appears that it's going to be a big mess. It appears that now it's going to be a huge cluster. Here's what President Donald Trump wrote on Truth Social regarding the inauguration being moved indoors. January 20th cannot come fast enough. Everybody, even those that initially opposed a victory by President Donald J. Trump and the Trump administration, just want it to happen. It is my obligation to protect the people of our country, but before we even begin, we have to think of the inauguration itself. The weather forecast for Washington, D.C. with the wind chill factor could take temperatures into severe record lows. There is an Arctic blast sweeping the country. I don't want to see people hurt or injured in any way. It is dangerous conditions for the tens of thousands of law enforcement, first responders, police, canines, and even horses, and hundreds of thousands of supporters that will be outside for many hours on the 20th. In any event, if you decide to come dressed warmly. Therefore, I have ordered the inauguration address, in addition to prayers and other speeches, to be delivered in the United States Capitol Rotunda, as was used by Ronald Reagan in 1985. Also, because of very cold weather, the various dignitaries and guests will be brought into the Capitol. This will be a beautiful experience for all, and especially for the large TV audience. This is where it gets interesting. We will open Capital One Arena on Monday for live viewing of this historic event and to host the presidential parade. I will join the crowd at Capital One after my swearing in. All other events will remain the same, including the victory rally at Capital One Arena on Sunday at 3 p.m. Doors open at 1 p.m. Please arrive early. And all 3 inaugural balls on Monday evening. Everyone will be safe. Everyone will be happy. And we will together make America great again. So, the Capital One Arena is where the Wizards play. It's where the Capitals play. It's where all the concerts are. It's not, and there's 250,000 people that are planning on attending this inauguration. I don't know how many of those. I assume all of those are ticketed. Some of them are standing tickets. Some of them are seated tickets. There's tickets all over the place. I'm not even really sure where my tickets were. But basically, what happens now is they're going to have to figure out a way to get 250,000 people into an arena that holds maybe 50,000 at most. So it's going to be a mess. I imagine, hopefully, here's what I'm hoping happens now. I'm hoping that a bunch of people are like, okay, it's going to be cold. We're not going to get to see President Donald Trump. We're just not going at all. And that way it'll be more room. It'll be more room for us. Kind of like how AOC and Nancy Pelosi have already said they're not coming. AOC has said that she's not coming to the inauguration because she logistically, she doesn't see how it would work. I don't know. I don't understand that. I feel like logistically they plan for everything. But now she's got an even better excuse: the cold and the lack of. I mean, if you remember Jimmy Carter's funeral, they showed him laying in state. The rotunda of the Capitol building does not hold that many people. It is, hold on, let me see if I can, I'm going to see if I can find an image of Ronald Reagan's swearing in at the rotunda. Okay, so this is Ronald Reagan. This is Ronald Reagan not getting sworn in. This was Ronald Reagan's death. Here we go. So Ronald Reagan swearing in. Here he is. This is Ronald Reagan. Because it was so cold, there's him, there's Nancy, and there's a woman with a big collar. And is that Sandra Day O'Connor? I think it might be. Anyway, and there she is, and there he is. He's getting sworn in, being sworn in by Justice Warren Burger. Chief Justice Warren Burger, as Nancy Reagan observes in the rotunda. So this is what it's going to look like. But look, you can see, I mean, it's not that big. You're going to have a crowd of people. First of all, it's going to be Donald Trump's immediate family, and he's got a big immediate family. You're going to have Melania standing right next to him. You're going to have probably Don Jr., Eric, Laura, Tiffany's going to be there. I imagine Ivanka will roll in. Barron, of course, is going to come down from NYU. All the Trumps are going to be there. Then his staff, Elon, you know, who's like an adopted son at this point, Elon will be there. The staff will all be there in attendance. It's going to be, let me close that quickly. It's going to be nuts. And then you're going to have dignitaries. You're going to have J.D. Vance, J.D. Vance's wife, J.D. Vance's family. Mike Johnson is going to be there. And then you're going to have, you know, John Thune will be there because he's the majority leader in the Senate now. You're going to have, I imagine, some Democrats, maybe Hakeem Jeffries, maybe Chuck Schumer will show up. Bernie Sanders won't have to worry about his mittens anymore. But this is what it's going to look like. Remove Reagan, put in Donald Trump. Remove Nancy, put in Melania. Remove Warren Burger, put in John Roberts. That's what we're going to have, and it's going to be a much smaller ceremony. And look, I mean, not even every member of Congress is going to get to see this thing. Like, I don't know if they're drawing straws. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're doing right now. But I know what's going to happen is that it's going to be a much smaller ceremony inside. I imagine a lot of Capitol Hill staffers that were excited to go are going to be watching from their offices. And then afterward, we're all going to go to the... Now, here's the interesting thing. My hotel is actually closer to the Capital One Arena than it is to the Capitol. Like, I was going to have to take a Lime scooter, which I'm not hating. But my wife, she ixnayed the Lime scooter because I'm a big Lime scooter fan. I don't even know. But in Washington, D.C., whenever I have to go anywhere, I take a Lime scooter. I love the Lime scooter. I'm a scooter aficionado. I'm really good on a Lime scooter. I know people are like, Mark, you're 50. What are you doing on a Lime scooter? I can throw on a backpack full of gear, like 100 pounds of gear. I can throw it on my back. I can have my cell phone in my hand. I can have my shades on. I can be in a full suit, and I can Lime scooter with the best of them. In fact, whenever I travel, Lime scooter is my option of choice. However, my wife has said I'm not Lime scootering, so we're going to take the metro or whatever. Anyway, but now I don't even have to travel to the Capitol. I can walk out of my hotel, go around the corner, boom. I can be right at the Capital One Arena for whatever this is. Hopefully I can get inside. Either way, it's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be amazing. We're going to be live on the ground. The environment is going to be electric. That much we know. We know that the energy in Washington, D.C. and around the country is going to be phenomenal because we've been waiting for this day for a very long time. We've been waiting for the day to come that Donald Trump was going to be the president of the United States once again. And now that day is finally here. Now, there's a couple of other. Nancy Pelosi also said she won't be coming to the inauguration. She cited the fact that she hates Donald Trump, I think was her reason. But there's others. For example, Jasmine Crockett. Chow. Remember her? Remember Jasmine Crockett who called Nancy Mace Chow? Chow, please. Jasmine Crockett will not be there. She said that she has to be at church or something for the Martin Luther King Jr. celebration. And besides, she couldn't imagine watching Donald Trump get sworn in on the same exact day that Donald Trump was getting sworn in is Martin Luther King Jr. celebration. And she could not imagine that because, as she says, basically he's the devil. And here it is. Let me just pull up the story real quick because it's kind of funny. Democrats skipping Trump's inauguration aren't calling it a boycott. What is this ad for? That's weird. Many congressional Democrats don't plan to attend President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration on Monday, but this time around, they're not calling it a boycott. Anti-Trump sentiments still abound in the House Democratic caucus, but their ill will toward Mr. Trump has been tempered by his resounding political comeback. At Mr. Trump's first inauguration in 2017, more than 60 Democratic lawmakers boycotted the event because they said Mr. Trump was an illegitimate and dangerous president. 8 years later, while plenty of Democrats are skipping Mr. Trump's swearing in at the U.S. Capitol, many blame a scheduling conflict. I think it's just kind of a general conflict of logistics. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York explained to the Washington Times about her planned inauguration no-show. Representative Emmanuel Cleaver of Missouri does not know if he can make the inauguration, saying the day conflicts with Martin Luther King Jr. Day's events at his church. He told the Times it would not be part of a boycott if he decides he cannot make it. However, some Democrat lawmakers said they were participating in events celebrating Martin Luther King Jr. as a form of political expression. Jasmine Crockett of Texas said she couldn't bring herself to watch Mr. Trump take the presidential oath in Washington on MLK Day. Considering this is also Martin Luther King Day, child, it just seems like the worst way to spend the day, knowing that I would be celebrating someone who really is going to work very hard to tear down the legacy in which he literally lived and died for. Child. She said, I may have added the child. She said she would attend the inauguration if Mr. Trump was a, quote, traditional Republican. Not sure what that means. Ayanna Pressley of Massachusetts also didn't use the B word when explaining why she wouldn't be in Washington on the inauguration day. She said she would spend the weekend of Martin Luther King Jr. Day in my district at community events that feed our collective soul. Great band, by the way, Collective Soul. I do enjoy. I saw them. I saw Collective Soul. They were with Hootie and the Blowfish when they came to town. They opened for Hootie. It was water from the hell. I don't know the words. Don't get around. Don't. Wait, that's Collective Soul, right? Turn her head, a babe. I think that's Collective Soul. Somebody, if it's not Collective Soul, I imagine 482 people will comment on YouTube and Rumble and X and everywhere else if that was not actually Collective Soul. I'm pretty sure that you guys, that's the best thing about Catriots. First of all, welcome Catriots from all around the globe. Welcome Catriots from sea to shining sea. Here we are broadcasting live from Catriot HQ in the heart of Mar-a-Lago, where it's warm. I mean, it's cold, but it's warm. It's warmer here than it will be in DC, that's for sure. But I appreciate that's the best thing about Catriots is whenever I say something or do something wrong, you guys are the first to let me know. Thanks for having my back. So anyway, so that's the plan for the inauguration. Slight change of plans, but I'm still going. I'm still going to be there. I'm still going to be in Washington, D.C. when 45 becomes 47 and 46 becomes history. That's going to be one of the greatest days in the history of our country. All right. It is. It was Collective Soul. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I was right. I mean, I just saw them. I could tell you. It was just. I just saw them in concert. So a couple of other big, in addition to, but not limited to, Donald Trump's announcement on Truth Social that the inauguration will be moved inside. There's also information about TikTok, which came down. TikTok, the whole TikTok thing is very confusing, and I'm going to get to Kristi Noem in a minute. So originally, this is the other thing. Let me share this with you real quick. Originally, I went in, and some of you, I didn't even get a chance to change, but originally I had this whole different concept planned for today's show. I wanted to share with you the article and the information about how Chuck Schumer drove to Delaware and basically sat at Joe Biden's house and explained to him what a horrible person he would be if he ran for president and how he was going to destroy his entire legacy. I'm going to do a dramatic reading of Chuck Schumer blackmailing and basically guilting Joe Biden, convincing him in any way, shape, or form that he could to drop out of the race. It's really phenomenal. That's what I was going to start with today. But then, of course, the whole Colt thing hit. And then Kristi Noem gave great testimony. So we had to kind of change things around a little bit. So you may be a couple of the titles don't match the thumbnails and whatnot. But if you're listening to the podcast on iTunes and or Spotify, then you're good. None of this concerns you because that's not a visual medium. It's an audio medium. And you're just listening. So anyway, now the interesting thing before I move on to the TikTok thing, there's one more thing that my wife and I were talking about with the inauguration being moved inside, because there's been a lot of activity lately in the last, let's say 7 or 8 months that is dangerous, that is violent, that is dangerous, that is potentially fatal to President Donald Trump and other people. For example, you may remember back in July, somebody shot him in the head. Somebody shot him, tried to shoot him multiple. Somebody tried to kill him. And then later on that year, somebody else tried to kill him. And then Matt Gaetz told us it's not just these two people. There's 5 active assassination teams working to kill President Donald Trump. So that was something that, a lot of people were like, wow, Do we really trust that the Secret Service, do we really trust that the Parks Police, do we really trust that these people can keep Donald Trump safe in front of all these folks in Washington, D.C.? Maybe we should move it inside for a security concern. And Donald Trump's not one to run from an event. Donald Trump's not one to let the terrorists win, so he wasn't going to do that. However, when it comes to the freezing cold and the ice and the dangerous temperatures, he does. So with that, and of course, with the information about what happened over New Year's Eve, or New Year's Day rather, we had 2 attacks. One in New Orleans, tragic attack where a terrorist drove through a crowd of people in a pickup truck, killed over a dozen people, injured dozens more. Set little pipe bombs, or what do you call it? Little coolers full of explosives that he wanted to trip. Didn't, thank God. Then, of course, in Las Vegas, same day, Cybertruck explosion outside of the Trump hotel and casino. That also very. I mean, look, both of those really kind of put the spotlight on whether or not large events of any capacity that involve Donald Trump and or Republicans were going to be safe. So now it almost looks like. And again, I don't want to say it's divine intervention, but let me show you. If you look at the weather forecast for DC, and I could probably bring it up, but I'm not going. I'm just going to draw it because, oh, you know what I have? Let's see if I have this. Is this ready to go? Look at this. Look, I have an overhead camera now. Okay, so let me pull on my overhead camera. So here's basically, let me see if I can get it any closer. Here's basically how this is going to look, okay? Let me just zoom in a little bit more. There we go. Did that work? Okay, there we go. So here's basically how the forecast looks, okay? So here is, let's say we'll do Saturday. Okay, so this is going to be Saturday, and Saturday is 118. Okay, then we'll do Sunday, and Sunday is 119, and then Monday is Trump Day. Very exciting. And then Tuesday is Trump Day +1, and then Wednesday is Trump Day +2. Now, that's the day also that I return home. So here's basically the forecast in DC, okay? It's going to be cold on Saturday, and then on Sunday, it's going to drop and become frigidly cold, and it's going to remain frigidly cold until Wednesday when I take off again. So extreme cold the 2 days that I happen to be in DC. So it's going to be cold, but like moderately, regularly cold. They're like your typical, oh, it's winter in DC, la, 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 let's get some gloves and have a great time. But then on Sunday night, it drops to these sub-zero, dangerous, disgustingly awful temperatures. It's extremely frigidly cold Monday and Tuesday during all the inauguration events. And then Wednesday, it warms back up as I fly home to sunny, warm Florida. So when you look at this, when you look at the way this is laid out, it's almost like there's, let's just say, divine intervention. Like maybe somebody who controls the weather. No, I'm not talking about the deep state or the FBI. I'm talking about God. Maybe God is like, look, dude, you should probably go inside. I don't know if you saw what happened. On New Year's Eve. I don't know if you remember what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. I'm sure you do because you got shot in the head. But let's move this. Oh, wait, what happened there? Let's move this thing and let's move this party inside. What happened to my camera? There it is. Let's move this party inside just for everybody's safety. And then afterward, well, because again, when you look at it, here it is right here. When you look at it, it just seems to be, I mean, it's like we're just making this basin of extremely cold temperatures during the biggest event in this nation's history, and now we're forcing you to go inside where it might be a lot safer. So I don't know. That was our thought process. Maybe you concur. Maybe you agree. I know a lot of people who are traveling to DC are like, I don't know, man. Or I don't know now I'm annoyed because I'm traveling all the way to DC and I'm not going to be able to see this thing and I'm not going to be able to hang out outside. But a lot of people are like, I think it's kind of cool. Now there's other festivities. Of course, Carrie Underwood was set to perform. I don't believe that Carrie Underwood will be performing in the Capitol Rotunda because again, small. She'll probably be moved to the Capital One Arena. Again, hopefully I'll be able to get inside there. If I do, I'll get you all the footage that you need. I'll get you everything that I can. But if I can't, I'll stand outside and I'll just talk to all the protesters and all the Trump support. Now, if you're in DC, by all means, hit me up with a DM. Maybe we'll figure something out and we'll have maybe we'll have an impromptu get together. I wasn't planning on it because I didn't know that I'd have time, but now I may have time. All right, let's get back. Now, there's other news, of course. Keep in mind that because I'm a staff of one, because I was changing thumbnails and titles and looking at the radar and trying to figure out what was going on with our tickets and things like that, I didn't have time to actually edit and plan out the show, but I do have lots of audio and video clips. I don't know what order they're going to be in, so this will be kind of an interesting show today. But either way, it doesn't matter what order they're in as long as we get all the information. And now I need to actually find out where they all are. The first thing I did want to touch on, though, was this TikTok ban, because the TikTok ban's a big story, and it's been really confusing for a lot of people, myself included. Being a world famous TikToker, being somebody who gets millions of views on TikTok every day, being someone who's followed by hundreds of thousands of people, being one of the few conservative voices that has been allowed to live on TikTok and thrive on TikTok, I've been very, very involved in this particular decision. Now, I know what people say. They go, Mark Kaye, don't you know that the Chinese government has all your information? And I'm like, dude, I've been on social media so long, everybody has my information. People text me and I'm like, how did you get this number? They're like, I found it on the web. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I've been on the internet for like 25 years, I think, on various different platforms. I'm pretty sure there's no secrets about me whatsoever. There's photos, millions of photos of me, probably not just the ones that I've taken, but other people have taken, deep fakes, AI. I'm not worried and concerned about my information, but if you have small children, I could definitely imagine why you would be concerned about their information. However, I've been using TikTok as a way to reach conservative audiences, and I like to be in a place where I'm an outlier. And rest assured, on TikTok, if you're a conservative, you're an outlier. So this ban has been very interesting because President Donald Trump originally, hold on, I'm going to take this hat off because it's not cold in my house. It's really, that's much better. President Donald Trump originally wanted to ban TikTok for security purposes, national security purposes. He heard about the data. He heard that the Chinese Communist Party was using the data, all that. And then, of course, he left office. Joe Biden, who ridiculed him for wanting to ban TikTok, by the way, took up the mantle. The Democrats passed legislation, and Joe Biden last April signed it into law. Joe Biden signed a law saying TikTok is bad. Well, then this is where it gets fun and interesting. Then all of a sudden, Donald Trump said, you know what? I don't think TikTok is that bad. And he used TikTok to, there's more breaking news. Exciting. He used TikTok to his advantage, and he used it to connect with a younger audience. He started doing TikToks with Logan Paul. He started doing TikToks with, Aiden Ross and a whole bunch of other people, and immediately became one of the most popular and followed people on the platform. He lunged right past Kamala Harris and Harry Sisson and all these other weirdos on the left who thought they were going to dominate TikTok. They used that coconut dance that they thought was going to be a great TikTok. Oh, the coconut dance, the TikTok trend that's going to save Kamala Harris. It's going to get her elected. Oh, look at this. We're going to own TikTok. Donald Trump owns TikTok. Donald Trump has billions and billions of views on TikTok on all of his accounts accumulated. And Kamala Harris can't even hold a candle. Donald Trump has more cumulative views on TikTok than Kim Kardashian, Taylor Swift, you name it. Any of the other big stars, Harry Styles, I don't know who they are. All of these people, he's got more views than any of them combined on that platform. And so now he's like, you know what? I like TikTok now. Maybe I'll save it. And so this decision that Joe Biden made to sign this into law, really, I think immediately a lot of folks regretted. They know that ByteDance and TikTok need to separate. There needs to be Chinese ownership and divestiture and all that kind of stuff. But it's just been kind of a hassle, and it's been a little hectic. And now January 19th is the drop dead date. That's the date that TikTok has to sell or be banned. And Donald Trump's like, I'm going to save it. Well, today, just before we started the broadcast, the Supreme Court issued their ruling, because you may remember earlier this week, we covered it. The Supreme Court heard from TikTok's lawyers. They heard from TikTok's attorneys. They heard from the government lawyers, the government attorneys, and they made their decision whether or not this law was unconstitutional and or violated anyone's First Amendment rights. Here's Fox News reporting exactly what happened.
The Supreme Court upholds the law that was passed by Congress in a bipartisan manner, signed into law by Joe Biden last April, to find a new buyer within 270 days. The Supreme Court has now ruled that that law stands. What happens to the app, however, is a wide open question.
And this was a pretty momentous discussion. And in fact, we just heard from President-elect Trump through Truth Social that he spoke to President Xi this morning, of course, the president of China, which owns a TikTok app. And this did come up. We don't know what was discussed, but it did come up. Shannon Bream is our Fox News Sunday anchor and chief legal correspondent. She's been on standby as we waited for this to come out. To me, this makes sense, Shannon. The Congress passed a bipartisan law. The president of the United States signed it. It was going forward. TikTok tried to challenge, and now they have been denied. Your thoughts?
Yeah, and we just have this decision. It's a per curiam, meaning that there's no single author who signs off on it. The court is essentially speaking with one voice when they do that. They say this: there's no doubt that for more than 170 million Americans, TikTok offers a distinctive and expansive outlet for expression, means of engagement, and source of community. But Congress has determined that divestiture is necessary to address its well-supported national security concerns regarding TikTok's data collection practices and relationship with a foreign adversary. They say, listen, this doesn't violate First Amendment rights. And there's a big conversation when the hearing was held last week. ByteDance is a foreign entity. It does not have First Amendment rights. Why would it? TikTok is the U.S. entity, but they've got to separate under this law. So essentially what the court says with one voice is Congress passed this law, as you said, Dana. It passes muster, and now the ban will go in effect. Now, we know that both Presidents Biden and President-elect Trump have said they may not enforce it. And there is a provision within the law that says a president can delay this for 90 days if there is significant progress on a divestiture deal. Will President-elect try to argue that there is? He's having conversations. There are conversations with U.S.-based buyers who want to take a stab at this. Will that be enough to trigger that 90 days?
Right.
So basically what they're saying is that Donald Trump and or Joe Biden can trigger a 90-day, but there needs to be a good faith conversation with legally binding documentation that TikTok is looking to sell to an American company, that ByteDance is going to divest TikTok to somebody like, I don't know, Kevin O'Leary or Elon Musk or one of the other billionaires who's putting together a plan to buy TikTok. So far, they haven't done that. And it doesn't appear that that's going to happen before Sunday. So while the Supreme Court has upheld the ban in a unanimous decision, Joe Biden has made an interesting decision, or whoever controls Joe Biden has made an interesting decision. Joe Biden, according to the AP, says they won't enforce the TikTok ban. They're just not going to enforce it. Biden won't enforce TikTok ban, official says, leaving fate of app to Donald Trump. So Joe Biden signed this law. This law goes into effect on Sunday. And then Joe Biden says, I'm not going to enforce this law, which makes it very similar to the border laws that he doesn't enforce. Because, you know, there's laws at the border saying you can't just cross into the border illegally, you know. And Joe Biden's like, forget it. Just don't enforce those laws. We'll just ignore those laws. Now he's going to ignore the TikTok ban, and he's going to leave it up to Donald Trump. The problem there is that the companies who host TikTok in the U.S., Oracle, which handles all of their servers and their hosting, at the App Store on iTunes, which is Apple, and Google, Alphabet, they own the App Store for Google Play. Those companies are going to have to take TikTok down on Sunday or else face massive fines, $5,000 for every user that they allowed to download or update the app on Sunday. And I'll be honest with you, there's 150 million users. If everybody updates the app, or if 100 million people download the app on Sunday, that's $5,000 per user per platform. That's a lot of fines. Joe Biden says he's not going to enforce it. But do we really trust Joe Biden? Do we really trust whoever's running Joe Biden? I don't trust any of them. I don't trust any gosh darn buddy at all. And I don't imagine that Google and Apple will either. I imagine they'll take those things right off of their platforms. But the very next day, Donald Trump is going to be inaugurated inside the Capitol Rotunda. And after the inauguration, he's pledged to do whatever he can to save TikTok. In fact, we have that. He said, the Supreme Court decision was expected and everyone must respect it. My decision on TikTok will be made in the not too distant future, but I must have time to review the situation. Stay tuned. He did also say that he spoke with Chairman Xi Jinping of China. This is interesting to me. This is kind of funny. On Truth Social, Donald Trump wrote this morning, I just spoke to Chairman Xi Jinping of China. The call was a very good one for both China and the USA. It is my expectation that we will solve many problems together and starting immediately. We discussed balancing fair trade, fentanyl, TikTok, and many other subjects. President Xi and I will do everything possible to make the world more peaceful and safe. Now, this makes me giggle. This makes me giggle. This makes me happy inside. Donald Trump, the leader of the free world, soon to be, Donald Trump, who is going to be the most powerful man who ever lived. Because he's going to be president. He's going to have the strongest military. He's got the Senate and the House of Representatives with him. He's got the Supreme Court with him. He's got it all. Donald Trump, the most powerful man in the world, talking to probably the second most powerful man in the world, Xi Jinping, who controls the most populated country, I think, or is it India? They fluctuate back and forth. It's China, India, China, whatever. It doesn't matter. First or second most populated country, one of the largest economies. Militarily, they rival us now, thanks to Joe Biden. And these two dudes are on the phone. They're on the red phone. And they're talking about TikTok, which is the app where, teenagers twerk and prank each other. And where I go on every single day and some woman's like, get ready with me while I talk about this thing. And I have to watch her put on her makeup and do her hair while she's talking about information that I actually want to hear. This is what they're talking about. TikTok. I mean, say what you will about YouTube, which is an amazing platform, and I'm a big fan of, even though I know we've had a past history of censorship. Say what you will about Facebook, which is I'm still really angry about, even though Mark Zuckerberg's trying to pretend he's one of us now, which I don't believe at all. Say what you will about any of the other ones, Snapchat. Say what you will about Instagram. Say what you will about LinkedIn, which I hate, but I know there's a lot of people that like LinkedIn. Say what you will about any of those platforms. Donald Trump is not having a conversation with Xi Jinping about any of those. The two most powerful men in the world are not talking about TikTok. You want to talk about something you want to talk about an app that has taken over. This is really wild. It's really, I never in the life of me thought I would be reading a Truth Social post from Donald Trump where he's sitting down with Xi Jinping on the phone to talk about TikTok, but it's happening. And only in Donald Trump's world would that happen. And I believe that all of these things will be taken care of. I believe that Donald Trump will talk to Xi Jinping and make a movement toward trade, and that tariffs will be in place, and that we will have cheaper goods and services from China, and that we will be able to make more money back, and they won't be bilking us for billions of dollars anymore like they have been under Joe Biden and administrations before Donald Trump's first administration. I believe they're going to solve the fentanyl crisis, or at least work hard to keep fentanyl from coming across our border from Mexico and wherever else China's pumping it in from. I believe they're going to save TikTok and these many other subjects. I believe that because I believe Donald Trump is the man to do all of those things, and that other leaders take Donald Trump seriously. Which brings us to Homeland Security. Homeland Security is it's a very interesting thing, because it's one of those things where it's a new department. It's one of the newest, I think, departments. It may be the newest department that we have. And Homeland Security was brought about it was a whole bunch of different agencies that were working independent of each other, but probably should all be working together, coming together to work together. That's the dumbest thing I've ever said, but you know what I mean. And it's been really, in fact, Josh Hawley said it, and I hope it's this one. Let me just play this for you. Hopefully this is it. If it's not, I apologize. Like I said, I didn't have time to edit and label these. Here it is.
My remaining seconds, just one more thing about the Secret Service.
Okay, that's not it. Let me go back here and find this one. Here it is.
Let me just ask you something. I repeatedly asked your predecessor when he sat where you're sitting whether the southern border was secure. And he repeatedly told me under oath, it is secure, Senator. And he repeatedly said under oath, our policies are working, Senator, meaning the Biden administration policies that, of course, gave us this devastating open border. So let me just ask you, is the southern border secure as we find it today?
Senator, no, the southern border is not secure today, but in just 3 days, we will have a new president in this country, President Donald J. Trump, and he will secure our border.
That is refreshing.
Okay, that wasn't the one I wanted either, but that's basically, it sums it up. Kristi Noem, the former Southern governor of South Dakota, who was in front of the Senate subcommittee today, and she was being confirmed, or she was in her confirmation hearing to be the Secretary of Homeland Security, to lead the Department of Homeland Security. Very, very important department, especially with not only the border issue, but also with the issue of the mass deportation. I want to play this one last Josh Hawley clip. I believe this is the one I was looking for.
Department of Homeland Security is not particularly old, but you already have what I hope will soon be the distinction of succeeding the worst secretary in the history of the Department of Homeland Security. Alejandro Mayorkas has been an absolute disgrace to that department and frankly to this country. And I'm delighted to see you willing to step up and serve. Let me just ask you something. I repeatedly asked your predecessor when he sat where you're sitting whether the southern border was secure.
Yeah, and so anyway, that's where we came in. So he says, look, it's not an old department, but we've already got one of the worst people probably ever to serve in our government. Alejandro Mayorkas, I mean, I can't remember the last time a secretary of any department was censured or impeached, but he was. I mean, the Democrats, they talk about Donald Trump, but in the past, since Donald Trump's bogus impeachments, you've had two other impeachments that don't get the kind of recognition that they deserve. One of them is Alejandro Mayorkas, and that should have been much more disturbing and distressing to people because that's the guy in charge of our homeland security. You would think that the guy in charge of our homeland security, you would want somebody who's not so belligerent and so ignorant and so ineffective that they would be impeached by the House of Representatives, but that happened. And then, of course, you've got Adam Schiff, who we talked about yesterday when Pam Bondi called him out for getting censured by the Congress. But then we've got, I forget his name. He's a senator from some liberal state. Listen to what he asked Kristi Noem. Listen to how she answered. This is about the southern border and her involvement with Tom Homan, because Tom Homan is like, he's like the special envoy to the border. Tom Homan is he's not a secretary of any organization, but he's been put in charge as the border czar. Remember, Kamala Harris was the border czar. No one ever questioned that. But now all of a sudden it's confusing. Now all of a sudden we got Tom Homan. It's confusing. So this guy wanted clarity.
I guess I'm uncertain about
Senator
roles
Kim,
and responsibilities regarding your position and Tom Homan's. I guess I just want to ask you just point blank, like, who's going to be in charge of the border?
Well, the president will be in charge of the border. It's a national security issue, and the president is in charge of this country and has made a promise to the American people, and we will fulfill his agenda.
Well, that was a good answer. It's the answer I would have given as well.
That was a good answer. That was a pretty good answer there. Yes, it was a very good answer, wasn't it? Because it's the truth. It's the truth. Who's going to be in charge of the border? The president of the United States is going to be in charge of the border. The president of the United States is going to be in charge of our security. The president of the United States. Tom Homan and I are working we're working at the pleasure of the president of the United States. And because the president has tasked us with doing where he's delegating authority to us. So Tom Homan's not in charge of the border. I'm not in charge of the border. It is basically that we are both working together to make sure that Donald Trump, who's in charge of the border, can secure the border the way he wanted. I have a couple other clips here. I'm not sure what they are, like I said, but let me just play them for you.
My goal and my mission is to build trust. We will undertake a large job and a large duty that we have to fulfill, that the American people expect us to do by securing our border, to make sure that our nation is a nation with borders, or we're no nation at all, and that we are making sure that those criminal actors that are perpetuating violence in our communities and in our cities and towns and states are removed from this country, that there's consequences for breaking the law in our country again. There has to be consequences, because when Americans break the law, there's consequences. And why would we ever allow someone to come in from another country and not allow them and not have consequences, or allow them to continue to go forward and to commit rape and murders and break other laws that endanger our society. So we've had over 13,000 murderers that are loose in this country that have come over that border. We've had almost 16,000 rapists and sexual assault perpetuators that are loose in this country right now. 425,000 plus people have criminal convictions that are here illegally in this country that our current administration is doing nothing to round them up and get them out of our country. We will be doing that immediately, and that will be the priority. And that is one of the reasons that today the American people have lost their trust. President Trump will build it back and know that their federal government is accountable to them and is working to put America first again.
Yeah. I mean, she's amazing. I'll be honest with you, I'm familiar with Kristi Noem. I've seen her TV commercials. I know what she did as governor of South Dakota. I know she killed a puppy. I know people are upset about that. Whatever. It was a farm puppy. Farm puppies, like only half of farm puppies live anyway. That's the thing people don't realize. Again, I didn't grow up on a farm, but I know people who've grown up on farms. I mean, when you live in Florida, you know a lot of people who grow up. Farm puppies sometimes die, And sometimes, you know what? This isn't about the farm puppy. This is about the border. And Kristi Noem did a bang up job. She did an amazing job in her confirmation hearing. She answered questions from both the right and the left. And it seemed like everybody was very content with her as a choice. She did not seem to get any pushback. There wasn't any hesitation. Everyone, I mean, I would put it up there with Marco Rubio as one of the smoothest, confirmation hearings that I've seen. It was really, really interesting. We do have more breaking news. I guess we should probably break this news about Vivek Ramaswamy running for governor. So Vivek Ramaswamy is apparently running for governor. Let me pull this up here real quick. It's like I'm getting 5,000 updates. Here we go. Let's go to Eric Daughtry. And let's see what he has to say. Breaking: Vivek Ramaswamy runs for governor of Ohio, per the Washington Post. So basically what happened is John Husted, I think it's Husted or Husted. I'm not overly familiar with John Husted, but I knew that he was going to be Mike DeWine's choice to be to fill the vacancy. Here it is. Ohio Governor DeWine to pick his lieutenant governor to fill Vice President-elect J.D. Vance's vacant seat. J.D. Vance, of course, is going to be the vice president on Monday, and so there's a vacant seat. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine will announce on Friday Lieutenant Governor John Husted as his pick to fill the Senate vacancy left by Vice President-elect J.D. Vance ahead of his inauguration. Husted or Husted? Someone tell me what it is, because I don't even know. Where my Ohio Patriots? I know you're out there. Tell me. And also, I want to know what you guys think about this guy, because like I said, I know very little about him. I asked on X, but I haven't had 5 seconds to confirm it. The lieutenant governor is married to his wife. Who wrote this? Fox News? The lieutenant governor is married to his wife, Tina. No kidding. And has 3 children. If you're married, if it's your wife, you're married to her. Okay, never mind. Vance gave the Senate notice of his forthcoming resignation, blah, blah, to the people of Ohio, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, this is the guy, his lieutenant governor. And, you know, I would have assumed that he would give it to somebody in his own faction. That's what Ron DeSantis did. Ron DeSantis made Ashley Moody the attorney general of the state of Florida, senator, which is, again, giving it to one of your lieutenants, giving it to one of your captains, you know, someone that you're tight with, someone you work with. That makes sense to me. Lieutenant governor. All right, fine. I guess, you know, that makes sense too. But now with the lieutenant governor position vacant, because typically the lieutenant governor then runs for governor, kind of like the vice president runs for president. With that vacant now, I guess it opens up the way. Husted. Thank you. Husted is how you pronounce it. That opens up for Vivek Ramaswamy, who it looks like just in. Vivek Ramaswamy plans to announce he is running for governor of Ohio, according to the Washington Post. The co-leader of Trump's DOGE initiative plans to announce a run for Ohio governor, 2 people familiar with his plan said. The revelation comes just hours after current Governor Mike DeWine announced Lieutenant Governor John Husted as his pick to replace Vance in the U.S. Senate. Vivek was previously asked if he would run for governor. Here was his answer. Oh, let's play this. This will be fun.
Ohio. And
wait,
are you going to run for governor of Ohio?
Okay, are you going to run for governor of Ohio? All right, then everyone started screaming. Oh, then they stood up. Oh my God, let him answer.
I'm a little more inclined than I was about 10 seconds ago.
There you go.
Are you going to run for...
This makes sense because you want to be, let's say, okay, you want to be senator. The governor picks his buddy, John Husted, and then you go, all right, I'll just run for governor. I'll just run for your job. I'll just take your job in a few years. Let me go back and see what my Ohio Patriots said about John Husted. Here we go. We have Tiny says, not a fan. You'd have to be here during COVID. Peter Lucan says, it should have been Vivek Ramaswamy. CJ Schroeder says, Vivek. Beach says, oh, I'm not going to say. Just another worthless nut, says Save America. And then June Bosworth just gives the whole Caesar thumbs down from Gladiator with what's his name? Joaquin Phoenix, the Joker. So there you go. So not a lot of fans of John Husted out in Ohio. I imagine that look, there's not a lot of fans of Mike. I'm not a fan of Mike DeWine. I'm not a big Mike DeWine fan at all. I don't know what's going on. Never understood Mike DeWine as governor. And I know that there was a whole big megillah. I was invited out to Ohio. I went out there and I did a speaking engagement during the last round of gubernatorial did the last gubernatorial election, and we got into a whole big thing about how DeWine could have been beaten, but the two guys who were trying to primary, neither one of them would drop out. But if one of them dropped out, they would have had enough votes to beat DeWine. But DeWine stayed, they all three stayed in, ruined it, yada, yada, yada. I know there's a whole backstory, and that's why DeWine is still there. But I imagine Vivek Ramaswamy will garner a whole bunch of support to run for governor of Ohio in 2026. Also, we know Byron Donalds is going to run for governor of Florida because he got passed up for senator again for Ashley Moody. It's going to be a very interesting 2026. You got Vivek running in Ohio. You got Byron Donalds running in Florida. We hear that Matt Gaetz may still also run for Florida, although maybe he and Byron Donalds have some kind of pact. We have, Corey Mills might be running for Senate against Ashley Moody in Florida. It's opening up. There's a whole bunch of stuff opening up. And then, of course, I'm like 95%. We had a big conversation, actually. I was talking to my wife yesterday, talking to the kids, and because my son, we were driving to an event. He graduated from this very special event. We were very proud of him. He gave a speech. It was lovely to see. And we're driving there, and he drove because he likes to drive places. I guess he thought I was drinking. I'm like, I'm not. It's like there's no liquor. It's like we had water and cookies. But he goes, I'll drive. And I go, okay. So he drove because he drives now. And my wife and I were just being chauffeured like it was an Uber. It was amazing. And he said to me, he goes, let me ask you a question. Like what? He goes, are you seriously running for Congress, or is this just like a thing you're talking about? And I said, no, I'm serious about it. And my wife chimed in and goes, I think that's a great idea. And I go, really? She goes, yes, it's a fantastic idea. And then my son goes, I think so too. So we had a big, long conversation about it. And then I started getting text messages from my friends. I have a couple still left. And and I got a text message actually from one of our friends. I won't say her name, but she wrote to me yesterday and she said, where is it? I want to make sure that I read it accurately. But I mean, accuracy has actually never been one of my big concerns. So I don't know why I'm being accurate now. But she wrote to me yesterday. She goes, oh, here we go. She said, I know a guy. I love text messages, by the way. I love text messages that always start with, I know a guy. But she goes, look, I know a guy and he owns a marketing company. He's a big fan of yours. He's been listening to you here we go. So bear with me. For our Christmas party, I hired a Santa Claus to make an appearance. Over the past couple of months, I've gotten to know him a little bit. He and his wife seem like really genuine people. He saw your name on the invite list for our party and asked if we knew each other. They've been following you since you started on the radio. Fast forward to today, he sent me a note asking if I could connect him with you. His full-time business is a marketing company with website design. He would like to offer his services pro bono for your campaign. And so now I've got the blessing of my family and they're all excited and my son thinks it's a great idea. My wife thinks it's a great idea. And now I've got my friend saying this is a great idea. And I've got a marketing company that wants to do my website pro bono. So I'm not making an official announcement just yet. Like Vivek and Byron, I'm not making an official announcement just yet, but I'm just saying it seems like there's something in the air. It seems like these MAGA conservatives, America First candidates, were starting to bubble up to the surface. And it seems like if you thought 2024 was a big year for MAGA conservatives and Republicans, just wait till 2026 because we're gonna have so much fun. I'm just gonna tell you this: it's gonna be so much fun. But we'll make an announcement. Like I said, we'll go to the inauguration. It's all about Donald Trump. The next week, it's all about President Donald Trump. It's all about the new golden era, or the new golden age in America. And then we'll start putting together a plan. But like I said, all signs seem to be pointing in one direction, and that one direction is Forrest Gump. If you get my meaning. If you don't get my meaning, I can't. There's nothing I can do to help you. Real quick, before we get, that was breaking news about Vivek Ramaswamy that we broke right here on the show. Before we get to the whole Joe Biden thing, there's something else I do want to, and again, if I run for Congress, if I run to primary John Rutherford, who's a rhino, it's like running against a Democrat. It really is. I mean, John Rutherford, this guy, and for those of you that don't know, if you're not familiar with him, because if you don't live in Florida, you're probably not familiar with him. And even if you live in Florida, but you don't live in this district, probably nobody knows what this guy's all about. But let me just share with you, this is the guy that represents where I live. Okay. And there's a lot of conservatives here. This is it. This is John Rutherford over here. He's the guy with the mustache and the glasses. This is Liz Cheney, also with a mustache and glasses. I'm sorry. So her mustache is it's not as prominent. But look, John Rutherford got a 53. This is from the New American Congressional Scorecard based on the U.S. Constitution. He scored a 53, which is horrible. That's like an F. Liz Cheney got a 60. She voted more conservatively than John Rutherford did. Here it is again. This is a different one. Lifetime score, 56% for Liz Cheney, 48 for John Rutherford, and this guy calls himself a Republican. Freedomworks.org, the now defunct FreedomWorks, which is a libertarian organization, or was, about as conservative as you can get. Look at this. Lifetime score for Liz Cheney, 63%. Lifetime score for John Rutherford, 57.2. Liberty score, F for Liz Cheney, F for John Rutherford. Again, he votes with Democrats more than Liz Cheney does. He votes against the Constitution more than Liz Cheney does. Liz Cheney is more conservative than this guy. And he's in Congress. And he's in my district. And I can't have that. like, I just can't have it. I had him on my show. I asked him, why didn't you vote for Jim Jordan? Why didn't you vote for Jim Jordan to be the Speaker of the House of Representatives? Because you know what? That's what everyone in your district wanted. We all wanted it. Thousands and thousands of people called him and said, vote for Jim Jordan. He didn't do it. You know why? Because he didn't like Matt Gaetz. He didn't want Matt Gaetz to get his way. Wham. That's the guy we have in our district. I can't legitimately sit here every single day on the internet, on Twitter, on Facebook, and say, conservatism rules. We need more conservatives. Rhinos have to go. We need to make sure that we have America First policies. We need to support Donald Trump. I can't sit here and do that every single day and then watch as my district is represented by a guy who's more liberal than Liz Cheney. I mean, I would be hypocritical. So, like I said, we're going to have to do something. We're going to have to do something about that. But it's all about Donald Trump this week. It's not about me. It's not about Vivek. It's not about Byron Donalds. It's about Donald Trump. Speaking of which, there's more breaking news. CNN has been found guilty of defaming a Navy veteran, awarding him millions of dollars in damage. Man, the media is just crumbling. They're falling apart, aren't they? A Florida jury found CNN liable of defaming Navy veteran Zachary Young on Friday and awarded him a total of $5 million, in addition to finding that punitive damages were warranted against the network. The verdict follows other high-stakes media defamation cases against Fox News, which agreed to pay Dominion Voting Systems, and ABC, which agreed to give money to President Donald Trump. The media is collapsing. The old media is collapsing. The new media is prominent and growing, and we're growing super fast. Now, again, should I run? It's going to be a lot of time. It's going to be a lot of effort. It's going to be a lot of money. So definitely support this show. If you don't yet subscribe to this show, please do. We're going to need all the subscribers we can get. We're going to need all the super chats we can get. We're going to need to sell all the books and the t-shirts we can get. We're going to need all the sponsors we can get. And in fact, speaking of sponsors, you're going to need to support our sponsors, because we're going to need to keep them coming. I'm going to have to support a family of 4 and run for office at the same time if I do this. So I do want to thank one of our sponsors right now, Colonial Metals Group, our good buddy Paul Stone, rather. Paul Young's totally different guy. Paul Stone, who runs Colonial Metals Group. And Paul Stone is the guy, I believe, when it comes to safeguarding your financial future with precious metals and precious metals IRA and savings and investment accounts. And, you know, a lot of companies offer free gold guides, not like Paul's. A lot of companies say, oh, come to us. They're not like Colonial Metals Group. This is a guy who lives and breathes this stuff. He knows not only about metals and his business, but he knows about the economy. He knows about the economics. He knows about how, the dollar is basically valueless, and how the government continues to devalue it every single day. And that's why this free gold guide is great, because it learns how to protect and grow your retirement savings with a gold IRA, why precious metals defend against the de-dollarization of America. And we've talked to him at length about that. We'll have him on again too. And also how simple it is to safeguard your retirement tax-free and penalty-free, how you can use IRS loopholes to protect your financial future. There's all kinds of great stuff in this free gold guide. And the place to get it is freegoldguide.com/K. Kaye. Freegoldguide.com/Kaye. There is a link in the description of this video. If you're watching on any of our video platforms, if you're listening to the podcast, go to freegoldguide.com/Kaye and support Colonial Metals Group. Also, look, if you're interested in we're putting together packages all the time, and as we continue to grow, because our numbers are climbing, we're going to be increasing, the investment that it takes to sponsor the show. But if you're interested in sponsoring the show, if you want us to, if you want us to make you a prominent sponsor of Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, or if you'd like to be interviewed, because we do interviews as well as part of our sponsorship package, we'll put together some information about that. But in the meantime, you can DM me, you can email me, you can get in touch with me any way you can, and we'd love to talk to you, because like I said, this is now not just a full-time job. It may be supporting me, my wife, my kids, and also a run for Congress so that we can save America one district at a time. We'll get more information on that coming up here in just a minute. All right. I guess I should get to this Joe Biden thing that I was going to talk about a long time ago, but I think I deleted it. Here we go. Joe Biden and Chuck Schumer. Here we go. Let me pull this up because this is fascinating to me. We all know that the Democrats stabbed Joe Biden right in the back. We all know that they just stabbed Joe Biden right in the back. We know that these guys, they took Joe Biden and they took their knives and they Julius Caesared this guy and they sliced him and diced him and they kicked him to the curb and they said, you got to get out of here. Now we have actual behind the scenes information about exactly what happened. And a big part of it was Senator Chuck Schumer from New York. I'm urging you not to run. Chuck Schumer said how Schumer pushed Biden to drop out. We thought it was Barack Obama. Oh, who, by the way, is trying to convince people. Look at this. Barack Obama is trying to convince people that he and his wife love each other. He posted a photo of them today sitting about as far apart as two people can possibly sit at a dinner table with no food on their plates, no wine in their glasses. Totally happy birthday to the love of my life, Michelle Obama. You fill every room with warmth, wisdom, humor, and grace, and you look good doing it. I'm so lucky to be able to take on life adventures with you. Love you. If this photo, I thought it was AI at first, but if this photo isn't totally staged, they're in some kind of room with a wine cellar. There's a large table. It's set for dinner, but I'd like to point out there's napkins, plates, and empty glasses. There's no silverware. There's no wine. There's no water. There's nothing at all that screams we're about to have a romantic dinner. There's one candle lit. Her bag is placed on the table next to her. Like she walked in, she sat down, said, let's get it over with. They reached across to hold hands, and now they're going to peace out. I would be shocked if this was an actual romantic dinner that these two people ate together. But again, I digress. That's not what we're here to talk about. We're talking about Joe Biden. So a lot of people thought it was Barack Obama who shoved him out. A lot of people think it was Nancy Pelosi who pulled the plug on him. But apparently it was Chuck Schumer who finally did him in. The New York senator who swallowed concerns for months and then stalled for time on sharing them with President Biden ultimately told him he risked going down as one of the darkest figures. I want to read this to you because I love the way it's written. Senator Chuck Schumer of New York sat in the foyer of President Biden's Rehoboth Beach house, tired and tense. He'd not slept the night before, and on the 4-hour drive from Brooklyn to Delaware, he had rehearsed out loud what he planned to say, reviewing note cards as he prepared for what he thought might be the most high-stakes speech he would ever give to an audience of one. It was July 13th, 2024, a humid summer afternoon just before 4 o'clock, and Mr. Schumer, the Democratic leader of the Senate, was about to make a blunt case to Mr. Biden that he needed to drop his bid for a second term. If there were a secret ballot among Democratic senators, Mr. Schumer would tell the president no more than 5 would say he should continue running. Mr. Biden's own pollsters assessed that he had about a 5% chance of prevailing against Donald J. Trump, Mr. Schumer would tell him. Information that was apparently news to the president. And if the president refused to step aside, the senator would argue the consequences for Democrats and Mr. Biden's own legacy after a half century of public service would be catastrophic. If you run and you lose to Trump and we lose the Senate and we don't get back the House, that 50 years of amazing, beautiful work goes out the window, Mr. Schumer said. But worse, you go down in history as one of the darkest figures. Ugh. Getting chills. Dark Brandon. I guess that's not what they meant by Dark Brandon. So Chuck Schumer, we find out now, is the bad guy in this whole sordid tale. In the downfall of Joe Biden, it's Chuck Schumer who delivered the death blow. Chuck Schumer who drove sleeplessly from Brooklyn to Delaware to sit in the Rehoboth Beach House and tell Joe Biden, if you lose to Donald Trump, you will go down in American history as one of the darkest figures. He would end with a directive. If I were you, Mr. Schumer said, I wouldn't run. And I'm urging you not to run. The roughly 45-minute conversation, which took place on a screened-in porch overlooking a pond, was more pointed and emotional than previously known and helps to explain how Mr. Biden came to the decision just over a week later to end his campaign. It is a central piece of the untold story of how Mr. Schumer and congressional Democrats, who spent years batting away suggestions that Mr. Biden was too old and mentally frail to be president, ultimately led the effort to pressure him to step aside. This is great. This is great stuff, man. I want to see a movie. I want a movie about this. I want Netflix to make a movie about Chuck Schumer going to Joe Biden's house and telling him, step aside, old man. Your time is done. You will go down as one of the darkest figures in American history if you run. Imagine that. Imagine this. You're president of the United States. You've been there for 50 years in Washington, D.C. You've known Chuck Schumer since he was like 30. And now all of a sudden he's sitting in your Rehoboth Beach House and he's telling you can't run because if you lose to Donald Trump, you'll go down as one of the darkest figures in American history. Would he say that to Kamala Harris? No, because that would be racist. But anyway, so then there's one more thing. I just want to read you this last little part because it's really, again, I love this story more than any story. Where is it? Oh, here it is. I love this story more than any story I've ever read. When Mr. Schumer arrived at Mr. Biden's house that summer day, he could hear the president shouting, pay them more. I don't know. Mr. Biden was finishing up a contentious Zoom call with a small group of lawmakers who were expressing their concerns about his viability as a candidate, and his back was up. Ooh. This was exactly the kind of scenario Mr. Schumer had been hoping to avoid for the past 3 weeks, as he stalled for time and dragged his feet about having this awkward conversation at all. He worried that the famously stubborn president would feel cornered and dig in even more. So Joe Biden's on a Zoom call with other Democrats who are saying, we don't think you can win. And he's screaming and yelling at them. And then he walks into the lobby of his hotel, or of his beach house rather, and sees Chuck Schumer and is like, what are you doing here? And Chuck Schumer's like, dude, you got to quit. You got to quit. And this thing goes on and on. It really reads really well. So when Mr. Biden bombed during his June 27 debate with Mr. Trump, Mr. Schumer regarded it as something of a gift, a forcing mechanism to start an overdue discussion about the president's political viability. That night, about 24 House Democrats, including Representative Hakeem Jeffries of New York, the minority leader, gathered for a watch party in the community room of the Washington waterfront luxury apartment complex where Mr. Jeffries and many of them lived, known as the Dorm. But the festive atmosphere dissipated immediately after Mr. Biden, pale and hoarse, shuffled onto the stage in Atlanta and began stumbling through his answers. By the end of the 90-minute debate, those who had been able to bear sticking around were in a panic. Mr. Jeffries had a motto he often shared with his caucus: calm is an intentional decision. He tried to channel it that night, even as his internal alarm bells were ringing and colleagues were telling him they could not possibly win their seats with Mr. Biden at the top of the ticket. It's really a phenomenal. I don't usually read the New York Times or enjoy reading the New York Times or believe anything I read in the New York Times, but for some reason I believe this. For some reason I believe this is exactly what happened. This is exactly how it went down. And I'm all for it. I'm really excited about it. I think it's an amazing story. And like I said, I mean, we're gonna find, history will tell us more and more about what happened to Joe Biden and the Democrats who were responsible for his downfall. And we're gonna find out, like I said, here in just a little while. I'm really, really excited about that. Real quick, there's another clip that I wanted to play you about. This is Paul Ryan. So Paul Ryan, you may remember, ran for vice president with Mitt Romney, and they lost. And then Paul Ryan was Speaker of the House reluctantly. They kind of forced him. He really demanded a lot, which if you're asked to be Speaker of the House, I feel like that's the kind of thing you should be like, sure. This is the thing about Speaker of the House. If you don't want to be Speaker of the House, I don't think you should want to be Speaker of the House. You should be Speaker of the House. And if they have to force you to be Speaker of the House, maybe find somebody else. But he came in, he worked with Donald Trump, they got the tax package done, and then he went off and worked for Fox News and began, reestablished himself as a prominent anti-Trumper. Well, he was on Squawk Box, and the guy, what's his name, Joe? I forget. What's the Squawk Box guy's name? I forget. He let him have it. He was not letting him walk away with his anti-Trump rhetoric this time around.
So now you're calling for unity.
I am calling for unity.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
Would have been nice before the election.
He won. Look, he won.
And the other thing I thought was funny that you said was when you said, hey, look, I want Trump to succeed. You know who that sounds like? It sounds like a Democrat. It sounds like a Democrat saying,
well,
you know what?
Democrats sound like that.
Well, of course you want Trump to succeed. You're a Republican.
Here, look, I'm a conservative Republican. I'm a free market, limited government.
No, but you know what I'm saying. That's who I hear.
Yeah, but my
saying
brand of
things.
Conservatism doesn't always overlap with Trump populism.
I understand, but it was binary.
But
you know, we argued about that.
I know we argued on and off the
binary
camera.
all along. It was always binary, and a vote not for Trump was a vote for Kamala Harris. Can you imagine?
I know you want to get back at this.
Huh?
Here's the point. A lot of this agenda, my kind of conservatism, Trump populism, it overlaps.
Okay.
We disagree on trade and things like that. I'm not with trade fights on China, but
right.
I'm not a big fan of all the tariffs on our allies. But the point is, all this other stuff, the tax policy, the border policy, the deregulatory policy, very good for America, very good for the economy.
Don't sacrifice the good for the
perfect. It only
perfect.
gets done if Republicans stay unified. And I think it's important that Republicans stay unified.
Okay.
Joe Kernan, by the way, is his name. I love Joe Kernan. The fact that Joe Kernan, okay, telling Paul Ryan he sounds like a Democrat on CNBC CNBC was one of my favorite moments so far of 2025, and I've had a lot of them. I've had a lot of these great moments already in 2025, but Joe Kernan telling Paul Ryan, you know, unity would have been nice before the election. You sound like a Democrat. That was amazing.
So now you're calling for unity.
I am calling for unity.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
Would have been nice before the election.
Would have been like Paul Ryan's. That's the thing. Anyone who's never Trump, anyone who's anti-Trump, anyone who's ever been, oh, Nikki Haley's the one. Oh, we need a change. Oh, Donald Trump can never win. Those people, they are defanged. Well, if Paul Ryan once had power, he is now powerless. If Paul Ryan ever had any kind of dignity, he's lost it. If Paul Ryan ever had any kind of clout, his clout is out. And the same goes for all of these other never Trump conservatives who now are saying, you know what? Let's work together. You know what? Let's unify now. Of course you want to be unified now because you lost and you're on the wrong side of history once again. And Joe Kernan's out there. Joe Kernan's out there not letting them get away with it. And I'm all for that. Listen, I have to wrap it up because at 2:00 today, I'm going to be going live in my ACES community, the American Conservative Empowerment Society. And again, this is one of the things that we've built up on the side. We do a lot of great stuff. We do a lot of these fantastic live streams. We do a live stream every single day at noon. We do videos throughout the day, podcasts. We have 2 of them. But every Friday at 2, I do a live Q&A. And it's not necessarily political. It's all about business. It's political because we don't allow liberals in the group. I mean, it's the American Conservative Empowerment Society for a reason. But it's become kind of like a mentorship and accountability group for ambitious and driven conservative entrepreneurs. And every Friday at 2:00 Eastern, which is in 36 minutes, I go live. And the group of conservatives that show up, the entrepreneurs who are members, they come in and we talk and we ask questions and they ask my advice and I give it. And I pull back the curtain on a lot of what I'm able to do to market myself and my businesses and my career and their products and help them. And we have YouTubers, we have people on Rumble, we have people who are business owners, and they come to me, they go, hey, how do you do this? How do you come up with thumbnails? How do you come up with titles? How do you create books? How do you do your merchandising? How would you market this? How did you do your event? Any and all questions that these entrepreneurs and business people have, I answer, and I do it every single Friday. And today we're going to do an extended version. We're going to do it as long as it takes. As every question that's asked, I'm going to sit and answer. And here's the thing: you can actually, there's a cost to it. I mean, it's a membership group, but we're offering a 7-day free trial. So if you want to sit in, if you want to experience ACES for yourself, go to the website. In fact, maybe we can pop it in the chat here. The website is, let me make sure I have the actual website. It's acesaccess.com. I think that's right. acesaccess.com. Yeah, there it is. If you go to acesaccess.com, you can start a free trial right now. It's a 7-day free trial. So you can come in, you can ask a question, you can hang out with us today. You can there's other great stuff in there too. There's all sorts of courses and modules and videos and there's a whole community of great conservative entrepreneurs and business people that you can hang out with. And we all work to empower each other. And that happens in about 30 minutes. So go get your free trial. Come join us. Ask your questions. We'd love to have you. And then if you like it, definitely stick around. Because like I said, this is a group we're going to continue to grow. And this is a group we're going to continue to build. We're going to have live events. It's going to be really, really amazing. ACES Access. ACESACCESS.com. That's tough. But go to acesaccess.com. And hopefully, like I said, the moderators, our mod squad, will put those up in the group real quick. Also, I'm getting word that we have some Rumble rants and some super chats. So I want to make sure that those are seen. Oh, Teresa, $20 super chat, the Evict John Rutherford Fund. Teresa, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Now, again, I'm not officially running. This is not an official campaign contribution, but the more super chats we get, the more I can actually dedicate time to unseating the rhinos and getting pro-Trump, pro-America conservatives like me into the Congress. So I do appreciate that. Thank you so much. Julie Toomey, $5. I volunteer to help in any way I can if you do run, Mark. Yay, so excited. Happy inauguration weekend. Thank you so much, Julie. Always a pleasure, and you help so much already. But I'll definitely be coming after you. I'll definitely be coming after you for more help for sure. Oh, and look, this is going to be real grassroots. Like, we're not going to have, this is a primary. It's going to be a battle. We're not going to have the support of the party. We're not going to have the support of the donors. We're going to have to go in there and say, look, this guy is establishment. This guy is making money. This guy is not in it for the people. This guy is somebody that we need to get rid of. And that means that it's going to be real grassroots. It's going to take volunteers and small money donors, and it's going to take people dedicating their time and effort. And it's going to take me going out to a lot of events, a lot of dinners, a lot of bars, we'll hold some rallies and things like that, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Higgs 808 on Rumble sent a Rumble rant as well. No comment, just $5. So thanks, Higgs. I appreciate that. Higgs sent another one, I believe, also so Higgs is just throwing $5 bills at us. Higgs, we appreciate that. This one's also from Higgs. Higgs wrote a message this time with another $2 Rumble rant. The Arctic blast has nothing to do with climate change. It's because all the Dems said it'll be a cold day in hell before Trump is president again. Very, very funny. U.S. Abby, I appreciate it. $10. Safe travels to D.C., Mark. Thank you, God, for President Trump. Pray for his safety. Yes, let's all pray for President Trump's safety, and of course, my own. So we got a bunch of Rumble rants. We got some super chats. Keep them coming, folks. Keep them coming. In fact, I'm probably, like I said, now that this is my full-time gig, and now we've got a lot more to spend money on, not just to make this show great again, not just to entertain you and inform you every single day, not just to bring you the greatest guests and the greatest events, not just to travel the world covering the events that you need to know about firsthand so that you don't have to worry about the lying, cheating, liberal, fake news media, the liberal-run radio stations and TV stations and news organizations. You'll be able to get the truth directly from someone that you hopefully trust, me, and you'll be able to do it every single day. So, like I said, we're gonna really dive in. We're gonna bring you more. There's going to be more merchandise for you to buy. There's going to be more opportunities for you to join our other organizations. There's going to be more opportunities for you to help with Rumble rants and super chats. We're going to make this one of the biggest and the greatest, not just online entertainment media companies, but also political machines. That's my goal. And it's going to take a lot of work from me and from my family and from everybody else. But I know that you're here for it because, look, the bigger we become, the smaller they become. The more people we reach, the fewer people they reach. The more people under our tent, the fewer people under their tent. And the more people that we have in our faction, in our army, the more people that we can count as Patriots, the more people that we reach every single day to entertain, to inform, and to inspire, and to remind them that America is the greatest country in the entire world, and that the Constitution is our playbook, and that if we continue to play by the Constitution's playbook, and if we keep government small and we keep socialism out of it, then we will be living in a truly great society. The new golden age. It starts Monday, and I will be here every single day so that you and me and everyone else that calls themselves a patriot can save the republic. All right, I'm going to grab a sandwich or something, and then in 30 minutes I'll be live inside the American Conservative Empowerment Society for our live Q&A. Again, it's ACES Access, ACESACCESS.com, ACESAccess.com. If you'd like to join, free 7-day trial for any and all conservative entrepreneurs who are looking to empower themselves and learn a little bit about what, like I told you, it's no question is off limits, and every question will be answered. And that happens here in just a few minutes. ACESAccess.com. I'll see you there.